Okay, du får köra introduction.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So, we're back for another match. Today, it is between the two Swedes, Adrian Söderström and Oliver Nilsson. And we are here with Axel, who's going to take Aaron's place as the guest commentator today. And yeah, what are your thoughts on the match, Axel? Oh, by the way, they've started.
Oh, they started already.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually very excited. I hope everyone can hear me properly. Today I'm not sitting beside Vidar like I usually do, but I'm sitting in my own place. And so I don't really have a proper microphone, but I hope that's okay anyways. I'm really excited actually. We saw some very interesting round of 16s yesterday, and I find it very exciting that some people are going to get knocked out now, and that it's going to be a little more interesting in that way. So yeah, that's my thoughts basically.
Exactly. And so I'm just checking so everything's working. Okay, nice. So we've got Oliver's typical bishop d3 French, and he's taking Adrian out of theory here. I believe it is Gotham Chess recommendation in his course, or maybe it's not. I don't know.
No, I
Either way,
think
it's a pretty big sideline.
I think this one he got from some other place. I don't think this is what Gotham Chess recommends actually. So this is something else that he's playing, but clearly Adrian is a little bit surprised by this. He's spending a little bit of time here already, while Oliver is playing very quickly. And yeah, c5 played now, and Oliver keeps on blitzing out his moves. Honestly, I have very little respect for this bishop d3 variation, because basically you're just allowing black to equalize on the spot like this and swap off the entire center, which is not really the way to go against the French, but I guess it is a good surprise weapon if your opponent is surprised by it.
Yes, and I believe actually Oliver played this in a tournament in a school nearby to our house, and I think I don't know if the game went. It was something really weird, but it was clear preparation. It might have been e5. Wait, why is this not? Oh, because here, e5. I think this was the move, and then he took, and knight g4 or something along those lines, and black won quite easily. But instead, we've got the typical knight c6, simple development.
Yeah, and the Oliver has responded with the move, the bishop e3. Basically, it's very likely that the center is going to be liquidated and will be left with a very level position. Oliver is trying to argue that the bishop on f3, if you could highlight that one, it's a very good piece, because it's kind of obtaining some sort of Catalan pressure. I'm sure you're familiar with that type of pressure. There's pressure along the long diagonal, making black struggle to develop the c8 bishop. But on the other hand, the entire center will become liquidated, and this means that black has excellent drawing chances mostly.
Yeah, we've got a live comment asking us for a prediction for the Swedish Chess Championship. What do you think, Axel?
Well, that depends what group I'm supposed to predict. But if they're asking for the group that you and I and both the players in this match will be playing in,
every single one of this match, even the commentators, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Even the commentators. then I really think it's anyone's tournament. I think that the Swedish championships, the Swedish junior championships this year is much more close than it usually is. Usually we have like one big favorite, um, and then all the other ones. Like last year, it was Ludwig Carlson, who was much higher rated than everyone else. The year before, it was Milton Pansar with, no, 2 years before it was Milton Pansar um, with like 2400 when the second player had like 22 or something. But this year, I think really, I mean, I guess Adrian is the favorite, but even so, I think it's anyone's tournament really. Even the players rated like Oliver, he's rated 9th out of 10th. Even he has a reasonable shot at winning if he can if he can play on his best level. And you
Yeah.
can see that Oliver is actually. I will ask you the same question in a moment. But first, I just wanted to highlight this move, Knight C3, played by Oliver, because I think it's a very very exciting way to play. And I wonder if this is preparation. It probably is, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because he took bishop takes d5 after 36 seconds. Then he played knight c3 just 4 seconds in. He's still got more time than he started with. And this is a very interesting move because, of course, black has the option to just capture the g2 pawn.
Yeah.
What do you think about this move, knight c3?
Sorry?
So what do you think about this knight c3 move?
Yeah, I mean, this is clear preparation. He's got some d5 ideas, maybe. He's hitting the queen directly and asking where to go. And just to make it clear, today is only one match. We tried to make it two, but it wasn't really, players weren't really available today. So we're stuck with this match for the round of 16.
Yeah, unfortunately, we were going to have a match, the round of 16 matchup between Vladimir Boshnika and Alexander Sturmengdahl, one that I was really looking forward to actually, but Alexander had to prepare for Swedish championships if we're coming back to that one. And now, since we are anyways talking about it, I might as well ask you, what are your predictions for that tournament?
Yeah, so, well, as you mentioned with the junior tournament, I don't want to jinx it. So I'm gonna stay quiet. And for the main Swedish championship, like I saw Platon Galperin's performance in the Balkan tournament, and it was like 2700 level. I think he's gonna win it for sure. Vitaly Civic has also been pretty good, and he is the reigning champion after all, but it's probably between those two.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those two for sure. And then everyone else are fighting for third. They're also asking for cadet.
Cadet.
And in the cadet group, I'm going to have to go with my own student, Neo Malmquist. I hope that he wins it. I think he's not the favorite, but I think he definitely has a shot. But if you're just talking about the favorite, then obviously I think Vladimir Lustig is perhaps the best chess player of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go for Lu Jungrus. Just for the memes. He's definitely gonna win it, I'm sure. And for the master class, who's even the highest rated there? Is it Hampus? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if William pulls a master class once again and wins everything.
Yeah, me neither.
This Queen C4 move is very interesting, I must add, because usually it's an idea to kind of prevent castling, but now castling is still possible, so I'm not sure what the exact point is.
But what maybe if we focus, what's wrong with taking the pawn on g2? Because clearly Adrian did not like that. I assume rook g1 is the idea.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely got scared because Oliver blitzed, knight c3 out. It's definitely preparation. So I can go back, actually. We can look at this. So knight c3. Oops, wait, I accidentally removed that. So queen takes g2. And apparently this is the most common move or something like that. I'm not sure. And I suppose rook g1 is the move. And now after, let's say, what do you play? Queen f3, queen h3?
Yeah, queen f3 was my
Uh,
idea.
So apparently white has an edge. I suppose it's purely positional. And you've got this open g file, and the queen is just going to get chased around.
Yeah, I suppose also there are some knight b5 tricks always to watch out for.
Yeah, exactly.
Unpleasant knight
That's
c7. But
actually
instead,
very strong.
maybe we should focus on the game continuation, because after queen c4, Oliver opted for b3, chasing the queen out of the square, and Adrian responded quickly with queen to a6, and this is the position that we have on the board right now, if my board is working correctly.
Yeah.
I have a very hard time understanding this position, I gotta say.
Yeah, I agree. The question is, what is this queen doing on a6 exactly? Now it's not even defending c5, so Oliver just straight up takes the pawn.
I was also wondering about a move like pawn to a4, but just trying to get knight b5, but I guess
I was thinking of similar stuff.
The queen can go to b6. I like actually grabbing this pawn, but I guess the problem for white is really that black is just going to castle next move, and then he's going to bring the rook to d8, and he can also in the future he can use his central advantage now with pawn to e5, gaining a little bit of space in the center. The bishop will be able to come to e6, and for the sacrificed pawn, he's obtained the bishop pair, and also he will gain control of the open file. And let's not forget that the queen on a6 does a good job of putting pressure on the knight on e2. After a subsequent rook d8, the queen is going to have to move probably away from the defense of the e2 knight, which could mean that the queen on a6 is not actually that horribly placed.
Yeah, for example, rook d8. Oh no, sorry. If you go knight e4 trying to utilize this d6 square, and then rook d8, queen c1, and suddenly the knight is just hanging on e2, and that could be a huge problem. The question is, how do you continue?
Yeah, I'm not actually. So I would try to make something of my pieces on the queen side. Like, for example, I could try a move like. I was interested in playing a move like a4. Maybe this is just way too slow, but my idea was to meet rook d8 with queen b1, and then push b4, b5. This was one idea I had. But in general, I would like to place the queen on b1 when it's attacked, because I can then support my b4 advance, which I feel like is the white the way that white can obtain any kind of counterplay here, because it's very easy to just get run over here with e5 and f5 and f4 and f3, and the black attack is coming very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, Oliver's taking a think now, and suddenly the time advantage is gone. They both have 10 minutes, and we'll see what happens. Does Oliver try to move his queen in preparation of rook d8? Because rook d8 is pretty much certain the next move.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's certain, obviously, because you can also consider, like I would say maybe that rook d8 is not even on the agenda, actually, because
e5 could be an idea too, right? And then maybe you go f5 to keep the rook on the f5.
Exactly. I would like the f rook on f8, and then I would like the a rook on d8. So I would like to play e5, bishop e6 somehow, and then bring the a rook to d8, and then follow up with f5, f4, or potentially just go e5, f5, f4 immediately.
Yeah.
But I think Oliver should be worried here, because he's clearly not in preparation anymore. Adrian found a way out of that preparation, and actually he also found a way to make the game very interesting. This bishop d3 system that Oliver opted for is, of course, a little bit drawish, especially this variation with takes e4, bishop takes e4. It's easy to just it's very easy to end up in a drawn endgame, and Adrian has done a very, very good job of keeping keeping his winning chances alive here.
Yeah, exactly. And we're still awaiting a move. I think he's kind of unsure what to play. Could you maybe develop like the e2 knight to, let's say, f4 to go knight d5 in anticipation of e5 or something along those lines, while you can also move out the queen over to the king side in response to rook d8.
I had another idea. Actually. 94 looks pretty good, but maybe I would be a little bit concerned about bishop f6 ideas at some point, because you are walking into a pretty horrible pin there.
Yeah.
So, for example, knight f4, bishop f6, and I don't see how you're really protecting that knight comfortably. Maybe you can give an exchange with knight e4, and that's also interesting. But actually, I had an idea. Why can't we just play a move like queen d3 here? With the idea to just swap queens and be a pawn up in the swing position.
Right, that makes a lot of sense.
Maybe black should try playing the move queen to a5 against that, but then we can activate the queen with some sort of queen b5 or queen c4, and the queen is at least very much in the game.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting queen d3.
I think that's going to force a queen exchange, but on the other hand, the c5 pawn is still a weakness, and black could probably regain it in one way or another. Although I do like the practical advantages of just
honestly, I think after queen
removing the
d3,
queens.
Okay, he plays knight e4.
Right. So he's trying to put a knight on this d6 square. Do you think he's gonna do that if black just goes rook d8? Just straight up put the knight on d6?
Well, rook d8, you can also you have the choice between knight d6 or maybe playing the move queen e1. But
Yes.
But I'm not a massive fan of this approach, actually, because also it feels like you're walking into, especially like after rook d8 now. I mean, I guess rook d8 is logical after queen e1. You don't really have knight d6 anymore, so black could consider just chasing that knight out with f5 at some point. And honestly, yeah, he plays rook d8, and I'm very, because if you play knight d6 immediately, then b6 is a lot of trouble, I think.
Yeah, we can look at this.
You start to
undermine the c5 pawn.
Yeah, so he plays queen e1 instead, but now it feels like this was not really the right coordination. I wanted the queen rather on a more active square. Here on e1, it's purely moving out of the way, and maybe black can start running wide over here with a move like f5.
Exactly. Where do you even go after f5? Do you just put the knight on d6 anyway and argue like, I took a pawn, you can take my pawn?
Probably you do that, yeah. And then
because it might be a bit passive to return to either d2 or g3. I'm not sure. On the other hand, a knight on c4 could look pretty nice.
Yeah, but after f5, if you were to retreat onto d2, then black has a very pleasant choice between something like bishop f6, trying to embarrass the rook in the corner, or potentially okay, he plays e5 immediately, and this also makes sense. We actually have a question as well. The question was if the bishop pair was really an advantage for black if the queens were exchanged. I assume he was talking about the position
if queen d3 here, right?
Yeah, exactly. The queen d3 move. And what I would say is yes, the bishop pair is definitely an advantage, even if the queens are exchanged, simply because.
I mean, there might even be after queen d3, knight b4. Okay, never mind. Not knight b4. I'm not unsure what the engine would want to play, but yeah, this the bishop pair compensates.
Yeah, probably you can find, if you can manage to regain one of the pawns, then you have amazing chances, because the bishop pair, even in the endgame, maybe even especially in the endgame, the bishop pair just control a lot of squares, and the knights do have a hard time covering a lot of distance. You can have a knight on an outpost, but if you don't have any clear outposts, the knights are just worse. The knights are just worse than the bishops,
Exactly.
even if the queens were changed.
But now I
And
think Oliver has made a mistake. He played c4, which seems logical because in against f5 you play knight c3 and then put the knight on d5. But maybe there's just f5 followed by f4. And you're gonna have to return with a bishop, and d4 is a huge square
actually,
that is left now.
you can maybe even play f4 and f3 and then bishop h3, and then you're in a lot of trouble.
Exactly.
So after knight c3, black goes f4, you play bishop d2, black goes f3, and if you take that, bishop h3 traps your rook on f1. And then you've also, even in that position with bishop h3, you also have ideas of knight to b4, and then the queen on a6, which Oliver probably thought that he was passivating with his move c4. The queen on a6, after a move like knight b4 or knight d4, can rejoin the attack on g6, and all of a sudden there's a massive attack.
Yes.
So I would take black here.
I'm unsure what the the best way of going about this. Yeah, it's knight d6. He played the best move. This is pretty much the only way to not be like quite a bit worse. And you're basically just giving up the pawn, as we mentioned before, to get this bishop pair, and hoping to take a few tempos off of black. But also now f4. Now I suppose bishop d2 is automatic. Maybe you can go bishop c1, but yeah. I don't think any sacrifice on f4 is particularly viable. But who knows? It's Oliver. He likes these kinds of sacrifice. At least in games that don't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen for sure. But I suppose that his idea is to play bishop d2. And then if black were to go f3, probably you just move that knight to g3.
Yeah, exactly. Because as we mentioned, on bishop d2 f3, if you take bishop h3, traps the rook.
But actually, there might be a case to just sacrifice this knight on f4. But I doubt that it will give you enough compensation. But honestly, I have a feeling that Oliver thinks his position is a lot worse than just 0.2 or whatever the evaluation bar is saying. I think Oliver might actually consider himself lost here. I would not be surprised if those are the thoughts running through his.
Yeah, but you never know.
There's been a very interesting suggestion in the chat now for the move Queen d1, which is very much a trickster move. If this is taken, then Queen to d5 check would be very, very unfortunate. But I think the problem
that's a great moment bullet.
Yeah, it's a great bullet move. But I think the problem is after Queen d1, bishop e6 simply, and you sort of.
Now we've got the same position, but just a worst place queen because it's in the line of the rook.
Bishop takes f4, and it turns out that it's the best move in the position.
What?
Wow.
Man, that's crazy. No way. That's actually brilliant. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's actually completely brilliant. Bishop takes f4, and it's the best way to go.
But this is so hard, practically speaking, for black in that case, right?
I mean, maybe, but it still looks so easy for black.
The wonder is,
you just take that bishop.
What I'm wondering is that does Oliver does he think, I'm so losing. This is just a desperate sacrifice, or is it like, oh, this is winning? I'm not sure.
And bishop takes d6 from Adrian.
Yeah, apparently that was really good. But what happens if you, if you would have taken on f4? Apparently that is also totally fine. But I suppose
I think it might transpose. Like e takes f4.
Alright, just take on d6 and pawn takes. Yeah, as we see that has happened, and he's definitely gonna take on f4.
Yeah, typical Oliver indeed.
Definitely typical Oliver. Mm-mm.
But I mean, I just have such a hard time believing there's compensation here, because I mean, simply white does not have.
But at the same time, like if you take with a knight and then play knight d5, you suddenly have the threat of knight c7. Black has to deal with that as well. And the rooks are coming in. He's got some back rank weaknesses, because if rook takes d6, there's literally checkmate in one. So white has, actually, materially speaking, white has 3 pawns for a knight. For a bishop. Which is just, that's the same, according to the traditional value of pieces. So maybe there is compensation.
It feels very, very hard to believe, but apparently he's definitely cooking something here. But I wonder why he's considering his options now. What is he considering? Could it be like he's considering a move like c5? But it feels very unnecessary, because the pawn on d6 is obviously, as you mentioned, not capturable if you just recapture an f4. And also, if you play c5, you allow black to play f3. So I doubt c5 is his move, but what else?
Okay. So what happens if you just go for this endgame? If you take, apparently it's the best, and knight takes, and then I suppose c5, or maybe rook d1, whatever. And this is supposed to be the equal endgame. You got 3 pawns for a bishop, and this d6 pawn is a huge asset for white. So we'll see what happens.
But I wonder why he's thinking that. What is he? What is he considering? He hasn't taken on f4 yet.
He has? What do you mean?
Oh, yes. I'm stupid.
But they played queen a5. I
Yeah,
thought you
okay.
talked about that, or did I hear wrong? Or
that makes a lot more sense. Okay. And my board was still stuck on on e takes f4.
Oh yeah.
And apparently this is just equal, according to.
Yeah, because you can take on a5 and knight takes and just rook d1.
And that actually makes sense, because that d6 pawn, we know that those pawns are worth a lot of material. That is a beast of a pawn, and Adrian will struggle to control it, I think, because if you can support it with like c5 b4 and use a knight on d5, I can definitely understand. I would not have played queen a5 if I were Adrian. I would have tried to keep queens on, and maybe even try something like queen b6. But maybe that's just over optimistic, and you should go for this endgame. And very hard to tell, I think. But now I would maybe say that Oliver's strategy clearly has paid off here.
Yeah. But okay, he plays queen e3. He wants to keep the queens on the board, which is the wrong idea. But it was my first instinct as well. It makes sense.
I think it's very logical, because black is the one attacking here. I think for sure. Like,
True.
this bishop in the long run, let's say this bishop. And again, I don't really understand why they are so keen on exchanging queens. I mean, probably this is a better version for black, anyways, because the knight on e5 is more active than the knight on a5.
But it's gonna have to return to c6 anyway, right? After rook e1, knight c6, rook d1. So
yeah, but you do have the option to go to maybe f7 or g6 as well.
Yeah, true. What do you do on knight f7? Do you just play c5 and kind of support this
I mean,
d6
also,
pawn?
there's definitely a case to be made for knight g6, because you're more or less forcing the knights off as well with such a move.
Yeah.
And that knight f4 is basically, it has the potential to become a very strong piece after knight d5, and then moving into perhaps c7 or e7 as well, for that matter. But you have to remember also, Oliver has 1 minute and 48 seconds left. So.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. He's quite low on time.
Yeah, he's extremely low. And the time situation, I think, is quite worrying for him, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So what will we see here? Adrian is considering his options. Knight c6 would obviously be would obviously transpose more or less to queen takes a5 earlier, the independent options would be to play probably knight g6 or knight f7, and are the two real moves that he's considering. Knight f7 makes a weird impression because after c5, I'm not sure why you wanted that knight f7. It feels like you're possibly even getting mated after rook e7 and rook e1 and
Yeah,
rook e8
exactly.
ideas will be made. Knight g6 very much appeals to me. Try to exchange those knights, and otherwise probably you do drop back to c6 because dropping back to d7 looks very strange as well, getting in the way of your own development.
I'm very interested in this knight g6 idea because you're more or less forced to exchange, right? Or is there like some other move? I'm not sure. And then it's about who does this benefit? Because my first instinct was that this light square bishop is quite decent. Because white can set up this a3, b4, c5 pawn chain, but it can't really make any progress because this bishop is just controlling everything. On the other hand, white has great access to the 7th rank, and black has these double pawns. So apparently it's just equal, but
And he's
nobody
actually
really knows.
He's actually gone for the knight to c6 here. And I guess that makes sense because you do keep control over e7, and you do also, quite importantly, get control over the b4 square. So maybe his intention is to answer c5 with b6, which could be a little bit annoying to answer, actually. And I'm not sure really how it will split. I would probably bring my rook to d1, and I would do so very quickly.
I
But
would do so
Oliver
as well.
has the already
Another idea
I
after
think.
like rook d1, maybe you play knight e6 in some situation. I'm not sure. He does play rook d1, and now I
If you work
suppose Adrian is gonna develop his bishop. Could he go like b6, bishop b7, just fianchetto it and prevent c5 ideas?
you could, but then you definitely allow knight e6, like you were talking about.
Yeah, true.
But the move b6 is always there. You could also consider playing a move like bishop f5, maybe, just getting that bishop out, or even bishop d7 to try to block up that passed d pawn. Very exciting endgame here. I have a hard time choosing a period. He does go bishop d7,
Maybe
just
you can
blocking
go
the pawn.
95 now.
Knight 5 makes sense. I have to say that I do think Adrian will win this one simply because of the huge time advantage that he has, and Oliver is already down to seconds, which does not bode well for him. But I would be very interested in knowing what the objective truth about this position is actually.
Yeah, this could be analyzed for hours. It's really difficult to pinpoint who's better here. But just whoa! Did he just sack his rook? But there's bishop g4, right? Bishop g4 hitting the rook in between. But maybe f3?
No, but then knight takes e7 and it's a pin.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I
Oh,
think
shit.
I think he just missed bishop g4 probably.
Yeah,
But rook
so
e7
although
is
like
it's not in the spirit of the position. I strongly hate that move because
yeah,
even if you don't lose material, what's your next move? I mean, you're
yeah,
just
it's just
basing the
tricks,
fact
right?
that trick. It's
Because the
just
thing is, you can't take obviously because then you're hanging the bishop.
bishop
But on the
g4.
other hand, you don't have to. You can go bishop g4. And this hits the rook, and there's no pressure on d7. Meaning, if you go f3, you can, simply take this one.
I think he should have
And
chosen
then
rook
d1 is
d5
hanging. And he
instead
did
of
go for bishop g4 and rook d1. So now he's gonna be
this.
a clean,
Yeah, this
a
is
clean rook down
yeah.
for 3 pawns. That's not enough, I don't think. He could also
No,
take on d6, but I don't see why he would do that.
and particularly this is a very strong move from Adrian with d1, just swapping those off, and now there's just nothing because the king is going to march to f7 next move. You have a threat now of knight c7, perhaps, but king f7 deals with it very, very easily. And it's time to resign for Oliver. I think it's a shame. The move rook e7 is really a poor decision. in my opinion. You should not make those type of moves.
Yeah,
Even if there was no bishop. I mean, it's understandable to miss bishop g4 in time pressure, but even to make a move like rook g7 with 10 seconds on the clock in a position which is pretty decent actually, it's just I think it's a very poor decision, and you cannot do such things in a match situation like this.
exactly.
And now we're basically expecting resignation with anyone. You're losing the e7 pawn, and there it is. Adrian takes game one, and I guess the objectives are very clear. Oliver has to win with the black pieces uh, in this next match in order to just force tiebreaks. If Oliver loses or the game draws, then um,
Yeah,
Oliver is knocked out of the turn.
and by the way, I forgot to mention my chat didn't really refresh, so we got this question: Who wins the Euros, Axel? We should
Yeah, and
probably
I
ask
think
Oliver this question, honestly.
yeah, I saw that question as well, and I was going to bring it up. I think that the answer is pretty obvious, and I think it's Hungary.
Yeah, totally
I
agree.
think there's no other um, there's no other team that could win, especially with this striker that they have, Martin Adam or whatever he's called.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's one of the best strikers in the world for sure. A
Yeah,
proper target man, and
he's only a
if
human
if
after all as well.
and if we come back to the chess, what is Oliver doing? Why does he allow this variation when he has to win with the black pieces?
That's a good question.
Because Adrian played the move bishop b5, and clearly the move I would have played is bishop to c5. Is a move that keeps much more winning chances. Like you can also go bishop b4, of course, but bishop c5 is probably the most fighting move against bishop b5. Instead, he goes knight d4, and Adrian simply goes for the draw, as he's done many times before. Actually, it's not a one-off occurrence that Adrian goes for this line when needing a draw. He has played the variation many times with white and black, I think. Uh, and I mean, it's just very drawish. It has a very, very drawish reputation. And
Yeah. If I was him, I probably would have gone for after bishop b5, possibly bishop c5, which would allow some knight takes e5 stuff. Or you can also go something like bishop d6, which looks very strange, but the idea is just to castle, play rook e8, play bishop f8, and just keep the tension. And maybe go bishop c5, kind of like a Italian. But instead he went knight e4, which sure is probably quite an easy draw. But here only one person benefits from the draw, and that is Adrian.
yeah, and I think especially, I mean, I know Oliver owns the Gawain Jones course. I know that he probably hasn't studied this, but I know that Gawain Jones recommends bishop c5. And having studied those variations myself, you do have a lot of winning chances there with black for sure. So there was no real need to play knight e4. And also the move bishop d6 has become very trendy, as you mentioned. I forgot to mention that before. Bishop d6 is a very interesting try as well, worth investigating. But knight d4 is just not the move to play in this match situation. It's a perfectly fine move, of course, but in this match situation, this is just not the way to go. But that being said, it's not a draw yet. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. It's it's online rapid. Anything can happen.
yeah, and I mean, Adrian has some attack going on here. I mean, I could definitely see White winning this, um, with some like Bishop d4, Rook e3 to g3. Um, he's sort of getting it somewhere here. I kind of think.
I think the only kind of problem Adrian might have is that he's already taking the win home. Like he's not thinking that much. Sure, Oliver isn't either, but if he just took his time, he should draw this very easily. But if he plays quickly, who knows? He might make a mistake.
Yeah, but in general, there should not be any problems here for white. And I honestly think that it's more likely that Adrian wins than that Oliver will, even though the position is obviously a draw here. It's a little bit disappointing. I was hoping for some crazy uh, variation.
Okay, bishop e6. He's almost trapping his own queen after bishop d4, but there is queen g5 and queen
Yeah,
h4.
queen g5 or queen h4, exactly.
And also queen f4, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, queen f4. Queen f4, bishop e5, and
Yeah,
maybe
I
after
was
this.
thinking about this f4 move. It's very interesting because you kind of have this f5 idea, while also planning to go bishop d4 in certain positions. You're
I
kind
guess
of
Oliver has to
removing this
defend
g5
c5.
square from the queen. So right now bishop d4 can only be met by queen h4, and then maybe you can just drop the queen back to e2 and play g3 in some position. I'm not sure, or you just go g3 immediately with a d4 bishop d4 threat.
That's actually a very good point. And Oliver plays queen h4, and you can already see the eval bars going up. As we were talking about, there are no real winning chances for black here, but white definitely has them, and I think they are connected um, with these two bishops on e6 and e7. And I think bishop e6 was just a poor move because you walk into f4 f5 ideas. So Adrian immediately utilized, and I think the move c5 was more or less forced. I mean, that was my
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to move 13, Adrian just played rook a to e1, hinting that he was going to play f4. So bishop e6 just ran straight into Adrian's idea.
Yeah, and I mean the only reason I can find for playing bishop e6 is that you want to play c5 because you protect the d5 pawn. And after f4, I think you should go c5 now because you have to sort of start going on the queen side. But what he's chosen to do, he's just not opted for c5, and now he did exchange the queens. I'm not sure if you were supposed to trade those queens. Maybe you were, but even so, f5 is going to be able to come, and also the bishop on e6 just makes no sense here because you're not getting in c5 here, and if you're not getting c5, then why are you putting the bishop on e6? I don't really understand it.
Yeah, exactly. So we got this question: what course were we talking about with bishop c5? Actually, I was talking with Aaron about this, but we're talking about the King's Indian course he also made by Gawain Jones. Except Aaron didn't really understand what I was talking about because he didn't know Gawain Jones was a person, or at least maybe he misheard me. I have no clue. But bishop d4, I like this. Just going straight for the draw, takes, and now the
Yeah,
d3 bishop is just better than the h3 bishop.
yeah. This is just comfortable. I mean, if white had to play for a win here, then I sort of maybe understand it, but
Yeah.
playing for a win here with black is just
Especially
that's
with that
impossible.
much time. I mean, they're playing quite quickly.
I mean, even if it was a bullet game, you don't win this with black. You just don't. Rook e3. I mean, you're just gonna get a textbook bad bishop versus good bishop. Maybe you can hold it, but honestly, I don't even think you can hold it practically.
Yeah, let's not forget, like, if we look at this, once white kind of puts this pawn on c3, we got all pawns on black squares for white and all pawns on light squares for black. And we've
Yeah,
got
and
light square bishops, meaning these pawns can kind of be undermined in the future, while the white pawns are untouchable.
yeah, it's a very typical strategic motive, um, and one that Oliver knows about. He knows that this is not working out. He was probably scared of the attack, and this is why he tried this way. But it's a draw according to the computer. But I think honestly, maybe I would probably think that I was close to winning here with white practically, simply because black is going to have to trade all of the rooks, and then I have all my pawns on the right square, as you were mentioning. White, both sides really want their pawns on dark squares right now because they have light square bishops. The white light square bishop will be able move freely and attack the weak black pawn on b7 mainly right now. And the black bishop is just not going to have any targets, and it's going to be blocked in by its own pawns. You can see if you put the bishop on e6, for example, with black, then the bishops are sort of standing on the same square, but mirrored. But the white bishop is completely free and can move in any direction, while the black bishop is blocked in both by the f7 pawn and by the d5 pawn, meaning that the bishop on e6 is just terrible, but the bishop on d3 is a great piece. And yeah, this is just probably black can make a draw because of the fact that it's going to be very difficult for white to enter with this king. There are so many pawns here that you just won't be able to enter properly with the king. But there's no chance that Oliver wins this.
Yeah. White was playing for a win. This could go on for 100 moves, but honestly, I think Adrian is going to take a draw in a position where he's perhaps slightly better, like I did against him last weekend, to win the tournament.
I have a feeling he will continue. I don't think he will just take the draw here. I think he will not be satisfied with just beating over 1.5. He will want the 2-0 victory, especially when they have. I mean, it would be one thing if he had the force perpetual in a crazy position, but he can just play risk free here. So I doubt that he will just take a draw, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not forget they are going to play against each other in like a week in the Swedish Under-20 Championship, which is pretty much the most anticipated tournament for guys like us. And this match might as well be like a psychological advantage to win this 2-0 for Adrian. Who knows?
Yeah, I think for sure, if we're saying like that, I think Oliver is kind of expecting to lose this match. Adrian is obviously much higher rated. Adrian is the highest rated player in that tournament Vidar was talking about. Oliver is the not the lowest, but the lowest after that, so to speak. I think Oliver is expecting to lose. However, I think if Oliver manages to make a draw, then I think he will be much more confident. Even if it's just to lose this match, I think he will be more confident playing Adrian in a week if he can make a draw in this game. And therefore, I think Adrian should and will probably push this one and try to get the victory, because just drawing here is not. It's gonna make. I mean, he will win the match in this tournament, but it's gonna make Oliver feel that this guy is not so good. I made a draw with him with black with ease, you know. And I think therefore Adrian is going to try to make sure to make a statement, sort of saying that he's the better player, and he's going to want to make that statement and not give Oliver any type of confidence whatsoever.
Yeah, we had the question as well. Do any of us have any Swedish championship titles?
I do actually, an old one. I won Minior SM once.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, I haven't. I won the school championship, and so did Oliver, I guess, and Adrian. And Adrian has probably won a few others as well. He's 1 year younger than us.
Yeah, and I won that once as well, actually, but that was a long time.
Oh, you did? When?
I won in 2018. I won that one.
Oh yeah. We played there. I remember.
Yeah, we played there.
You played the Trompovska against me.
Yeah, I recall that as well. That was a good tournament for me.
Yeah.
But we don't have any real Swedish, not even any real Swedish championship titles like a junior SM or
exactly.
We all suck this.
But that's gonna change, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we are the 3 highest rated players, you, me, and Adrian, so we have a good chance of.
Yeah, for sure. And who knows, Oliver might. He's played some crazy tournaments actually recently. Drawing you in the Delta Lifts and playing on a 2300 level in a couple of tournaments. It's really impressive stuff. He's definitely on the rise.
Yeah, and now we've been asked if we were the players with the most titles in our club. Me, Vidar, and Oliver all play for the same club, and that club is not a very successful club.
It's very
It's a pretty
successful in junior tournaments, to be
it's
fair.
very successful in junior tournaments, and it is a club that's mainly working on developing young chess players. We do not have any grandmasters or any super strong players in the club. Um, so yeah, we are basically the best players from our club, but
Yeah.
that's mostly because of our club and not because of us.
I mean, if we're talking rating wise, technically speaking, Adrian is the highest rated as well because he plays for our team in the Stockholm Championship. So
Yes,
that's
that's
that.
very true. That's very true. Unless our Pasti is higher rated,
Yeah,
which he
then,
probably.
but he isn't currently part of the Stockholm team for some reason. But he is playing for the
Uh,
Uppsala team, which is our team in the just Swedish Championship in general. And we just recruited him because why not? And he's like, what, 2400? Very strong player. He was commentating yesterday's match.
and actually, this is interesting. The Oliver has actually managed to put many of his pawns on black squares right now.
Yeah, but there's this
So
d5 pawn, which is kind of the crucial point, because he can never move.
it's a weak pawn, but we all know the story about the two weaknesses. If you cannot make a second weakness here, then black will draw easily. So if you want to win this with white, uh, you probably have to make another weakness. And
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how you're gonna get it. It's like I was expecting before. It is very difficult for the white king to enter somewhere because where do you enter with that king? You cannot really go in anywhere. The black pawns. I mean, if you took on f4, that would probably be a huge mistake because king takes f4, and all of a sudden the king is sort of getting into the game. But realistically, you play king e6, king d6, king e6, king d6. And actually, it's a little bit worrying that he's moving his pawns like this because, in general, you are creating weaknesses when you do. For example, if you take on h4 now, I think you might be running a risk of getting in trouble because the king will be able to go to f4. And you have to be really careful with the pawns you push. I would just have waited, and now you're allowing the king to f4, and I think now objectively it's still drawn, but there are serious losing chances. I think now for black.
yeah. I'm not sure how much Oliver really cares about. Oh, whoa, c4, that's a huge commitment. How much he cares about this game in particular, because if he loses, then it's the same as if he draws, and there's no way he's gonna win this.
But I feel like it's a very strange way, especially since we have that junior championship, junior Swedish championship coming up. It's very strange not to want to just prove to yourself that you can make a draw, even in such a position.
Yeah,
It's very strange to just throw the game away. And I think there's a serious risk that he's going. I mean, the engine still says it's a draw, but I do not like the way Oliver is playing. I think he's running a risk of. I mean, you still have to put the bishop on g6, pawn on h6, and sort of prevent the white king from going in. But I think he is running a risk of making a mistake. I think he's. I don't know if it's lack of understanding or if he's probably not because the moves are so weird. Probably he
but
just
at the
wants to
same
win.
time, this is kind of his only way to win, right? Because if he goes b5, b4, if he manages to move, okay, that's not gonna do much.
But he's probably thinking that he will get the king around like king c6, king b5, king a4, king b3, king takes b2. That's
Yeah,
probably the plan. But realistically, that's never working. And I guess you can make a draw pretty easily by maybe playing a move like bishop g6. But for example, if you allow a move like bishop f5, then who knows what happens in such a pawn endgame, right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so I think bishop f5 is maybe a huge threat because I don't know if you can draw that pawn endgame.
Okay,
And he
so
allows bishop f5, and we can see that the engine did not like that. And he allows king 5 as well. That's a very strange move, king c6.
exactly. So now,
And but he was going for the plan I was mentioning probably with king b5, king a4, but it's just not working. Like bishop e6, bishop f5.
exactly. So now bishop e6, precisely. And now if you go, you love to go king b5, but after takes, king a4, you can just take this one on c4. and you're kind of screwed. So now he's gonna have to back up.
Just as we expected, the engine was saying a draw, but it felt like Oliver was heading completely in the wrong direction, and it turned out we were actually correct about this. He was not going in the right direction at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably just waiting for a mouse slip or something. Because he, as we mentioned, he needs to win this, but he seems to kind of give up now.
Yeah, the king
Bishop
is gonna
E8 is nice.
You have to play king c7 probably, but now, yeah, I mean the king is able to confirm. Maybe you can even try to go towards the h6 pawn. Actually, he doesn't. He just keeps. I was thinking king f6, king g7 could be an idea. Because the king is, if you have the bishop on e8, you force the king. Yeah, and I'm expecting king f6 on the next move because you're keeping the king. If you would have avoided bishop e8, then maybe the king would have snuck in. We have b5, a4, b3, and actually they just repeated.
Oh, they took a draw with you. Oh, okay,
That's
wow.
That's incredibly strange, actually.
Yeah, so it seems like it did end up in a draw. This game ended in a draw, but Adrian took home the win in the match overall, which means he will qualify for the quarterfinals. And that would be very interesting to see. Unfortunately, Oliver is knocked out, and there is no B final for him.
Yeah, Oliver is knocked out.
I feel like he can hear us.
Yeah, I think he can hear us too. Should we see if
yeah, sure,
if
we can ask them
some questions?
Oh.
Perhaps Adrian seemed to have
turned off his camera. Turned off his camera. Now you switched. So Oliver, you're Axel now apparently.
Okay. Okay, but we can ask him some questions. Oliver, what were your thoughts about the match here?
Yeah, I realized my piece sacrifice was maybe not really justified, but I thought I had chances. But then I just completely missed bishop g4, and that was just
actually your piece sacrifice was absolutely justified, but rook e7 was the
that I missed bishop g4.
Yeah, rook e7 was a big mistake, but you were actually that position was actually equal according to the computer if you wouldn't have played rook e7. So your piece sacrifice was actually brilliant. We were applauding you for the piece sacrifice. Okay. It was the only way to stay in the game, I think, more or less.
Yeah.
But where did I mess? Where did I mess up first?
Yeah, rook e7 because bishop g4.
Yeah, but before.
No, you didn't. It was equal.
Yeah, but I like
the move c4. Yeah. The move c4 was not amazing because you allowed e5, f5. You should probably not have played c4, but even so, it was all right for you. And why did you choose? I have to ask you because I was curious. Why did you choose the knight d4 variation in the last game?
Because I have no idea what to play against it. Haven't looked at it at all.
Yeah, but the problem is that it's pretty much forced draw. Like after knight takes d4, there's no winning chances. Very dry. And in this specific instance, Adrian would love a draw. But yeah, what do you think, Adrian?
Yeah, am I a part of the interview? Okay. So the first game, I thought I was like much worse after knight c3. I was counting on queen g2, but then the lines were quite bad because white has knight b5 at some point. And then I have to play queen c4, and I thought I was like much worse, but somehow it just works because white doesn't have a light square bishop. And then I didn't know what to make of the position until like the end after rook e7. I was just confused throughout the whole game, and then the second game, not too much to talk about.
Yeah, I have to ask you about the position there where you decided to take the draw with just repeating.
Yeah, of course I should be winning.
Yeah, I mean, I was just wondering because obviously you guys are going to be playing again in a week or so. Did you ever consider if you would try to make a statement by winning 2-0 instead of just taking the draw, because it feels like you cannot really lose any time.
No, of course. Maybe I should have played on, but I just don't see the point when it's just the match that counts, really.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Adrian, we will see you in the quarterfinals very soon. We'll see who your opponent will be. We obviously don't know that yet. And Oliver, it's been nice having you here. You played some typical Oliver games. We can definitely say, but unfortunately, you're now knocked out of this tournament. And yeah, we wish you the best of luck, both of you, in the tournament coming up very soon. And well, thank you guys for playing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, then I suppose it's time to end the stream. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next match, which probably will. Okay, hello Oliver. Now you're Axel. We'll see you after the Swedish Championship when we've played the Swedish Championship, and yeah, see you then.